Have you ever stumbled upon a place whispered to be cursed? A place where the air itself hums with tales of despair and forgotten souls? Welcome to Whispering Summit, nestled deep within the quiet, unassuming town of Echo Valley, Vermont. For generations, this elevated clearing overlooking the Silver Stream has been cloaked in an unsettling reputation, a magnet for those on the brink, and a supposed nexus for unexplained phenomena. But what if the true mystery wasn't in the spectral whispers, but in the unexpected connections forged in the most unlikely of places? Join me as I recount a personal journey into the heart of this enigma, a story of solitude, a search for inspiration, and a surprising encounter that challenged everything I thought I knew about the living, the lost, and the enduring power of human connection. This is the tale of Whispering Summit, and how a place of shadows became a backdrop for a revelation. I never put much stock in specters. How could something remain unseen for such an extended period? And, how has no one managed to capture them on camera by now? By a reputable individual, or with recording gear superior to a mobile phone from 2010? So, Whispering Summit held no terror for me. Even though everyone insisted it was spectral and perilous, there was no concrete basis for such beliefs. I hail from Echo Valley, Vermont, a quiet settlement approximately 45 minutes from Montpelier. You've likely never encountered its name. You could traverse the entire town in mere 10 minutes. Our modest populace numbered around 4,000, and there was nothing particularly remarkable to lure visitors. The sole facet of Echo Valley you might have heard of is Whispering Summit. Superficially, it was nothing extraordinary, just a towering incline nestled within the forest, gazing upon the Silver Stream. It was quite precipitous, roughly 100 feet above the water, with a picturesque cascade situated to the west, not so near as to be jarringly loud, yet not so distant as to be overlooked. It was an idyllic spot for a picnic, a romantic rendezvous, perhaps even a proposal, save for one grim detail: the self-inflicted demises. Since the 1600s, Whispering Summit gained notoriety for the perplexing count of suicides that transpired there. It all commenced during colonial expansion, when a substantial group of indigenous people, the Abenaki, chose to hurl themselves from the peak into the river, rather than endure forced displacement from their ancestral lands. Legend maintains that ever since, the locale has been blighted. No one truly knows if that event genuinely occurred, and the same applies to some of the earlier yet undeniable accounts of self-harm. However, in October 1970, a young man named Richard Ellis was discovered deceased at the river's base. He was a conscientious objector on his unconventional journey to Canada, cornered by authorities less than 100 miles from the border. He was even from Florida. Convinced that his sole remaining choices were incarceration or worse, the conflict in Vietnam, he sought out Whispering Summit, where he met his end. Then, again, in 1986, a man named Michael Murdoch ended his life on that same fated elevation. Not much is chronicled about his narrative. He was, more or less, a solitary figure who had grown weary of his existence. And subsequently, in 2008, a mere decade ago, a young woman also plunged. Although her remains were never recovered, she was known to frequent the summit, and it was her last known destination before her disappearance. Needless to say, the strange frequency of suicides there had transformed it into a focal point for spectral tales and preternatural whispers. The prevailing notion was that those bereft of hope, utterly out of options, the outcasts, came there to bid farewell to this harsh world, but their spirits became tethered to the place, and would urge you over the precipice if you ventured too close. But as I stated, I never believed in specters. In fact, the site's reputation proved greatly beneficial to me, as I could visit it alone without fear of encountering anyone else. I went there frequently, to recline on the grass, listen to the waterfalls murmur and compose. Be it verse, narratives, personal reflections, it didn't matter. When I was there, I always had something to pen. and it wasn't as if I had anything superior to occupy my time. I was employed at a grocery establishment called the Harvest Market, but since most of the staff were primary providers for their families, they secured the majority of the working hours. I was fortunate to acquire 3 shifts a week. Both my mother and father were engaged in full-time work, and they weren't the easiest individuals to be around when at home. And my sole confidant was Alana, if you could even label her as such. Alana and I had been companions since kindergarten. She possessed light brown hair and large, expressive blue eyes. Her parents, much like mine, were frequently occupied with work, and consequently, we were always dispatched to after-school care. We were typically the last 2 children to be collected. Naturally, we forged quite a close bond due to this. Back then, and up until roughly the 6th grade, we were both largely disregarded by everyone else. We shared the same classmates each year, as there were only 3 educational institutions in town, a preschool, an elementary to middle school, and a high school. There were 26 of us then, and with the departure of 2 students who relocated, and the addition of one who moved to Echo Valley from a neighboring county, the group remained largely consistent throughout the years. Alana and I were often perceived as peculiar, and thus we were left to ourselves. However, upon reaching the 6th grade, that wondrous process termed puberty transpired, and Alana blossomed into an attractive young woman. To my eyes, she had always been lovely, but the development of her figure and the application of cosmetics persuaded everyone else of this fact. And inevitably, by the natural order of things, as she gained allure, I became overlooked. The dynamic duo was no more. At least not outwardly. We still conversed extensively, and occasionally she would still spend time with me. But the camaraderie we once shared, it had evaporated. She had assimilated into the popular clique, growing more like them with each passing year until we genuinely had no common ground left. Typically, our conversations involved her unburdening herself to me about Cole, the irritating individual I mentioned who transferred to Echo Valley in our 11th year. He was captivating and new, and consequently became the focal point of all the girls who had grown weary of the familiar faces. All Alana desired these days was to capture Cole's notice, and that was the sole thought occupying her mind, I believe. At the very least, that was all she cared to discuss with me. Thus, in my solitude, my writing habit steadily gained prominence. And although I was home alone the majority of the time, I disliked the atmosphere there. Being at home reminded me of receiving texts from Alana, lamenting Cole's insufficient attention around the bonfire in Mason's backyard, and overhearing my parents' disputes. It was difficult to unearth inspiration in such a setting. And so, on my 17th birthday, when I was alone because Alana was occupied with a party, I decided the only place in town I hadn't seen 1,000 times was Whispering Summit. My disbelief in apparitions made it quite simple to persuade myself to visit. It was about a 20-minute drive from my residence, and then a 20-minute trek from the parking area. You lost cellular service about a minute after entering the forest, and that was the most splendid part. Absolute freedom from distraction. No anticipated messages from Alana, no staring at my phone wishing for notifications, because I knew none would arrive there. It swiftly became my preferred spot in town, and soon enough, I was visiting almost every afternoon I wasn't at work, where I would recline on the grass against a tree and write. But my routine of solace and immersion in nature's quiet eventually ceased. I recall the day as if it were yesterday. It was a balmy Vermont afternoon in late April, approximately 60 degrees Fahrenheit, and I had just emerged from my 7th period class, statistics. I was a graduating student with merely a month and a half remaining in the academic year, and with most of my coursework behind me, I no longer had much homework to contend with my writing endeavors. I clambered into my vehicle, a 2001 red Honda Accord. It was unattractive and nothing to boast about, but I had acquired it with cash, and it reliably transported me where I needed to go. The instant I shut the car door, my phone vibrated softly. I glanced down and observed precisely what I anticipated. A message from Alana. I opened it nonchalantly. He was talking to Abigail again. Oh, my apologies. Why Abigail? Seriously? I'm not sure. She sent something else, but I didn't bother to look. I gazed into my rearview mirror, confronting my blue eyes in the reflection, my short brown hair beneath a blue beanie. There was no one behind me, so I slowly reversed. I felt my phone vibrate once more, then again. I drove to the stop sign, then opened the message. She's not even pretty at all. Sam. Alana, I'm driving. Oh. I put my phone down, then drove past the stop sign, frowning at her tediousness. Sometimes I couldn't help but reflect on how much fun we used to have when we were younger. She was, honestly, an entirely different person. That Alana was gone, most likely for good. Sometimes I felt the only reason I still spoke to her was because I genuinely had no one else to converse with, and she was preferable to complete isolation. My car lacked Bluetooth or even a functional AUX port, and the local radio stations were abysmal, so I listened to CDs. I inserted The White Album, my favorite Beatles record, which I had played enough times to drive Alana to distraction, and navigated the winding road toward Whispering Summit. The journey was as tranquil as ever. The trees had just begun to bud, and the forest was reawakening. The snow had receded, and the wildlife was re-emerging, allowing me to spot an occasional hermit thrush flitting by, or a squirrel foraging for sustenance. Upon reaching the parking area, I left my phone in the car as usual, as bringing it into the woods would be futile anyway, and commenced my trek through the trees to the summit. I was clad in a maroon windbreaker, blue jeans, boots, and my blue beanie, my journal clutched in my hand. Finally, I stepped through the clearing, emerging into the forbidding beauty of Whispering Summit. The vista never grew stale. I exhaled a sigh of relief, absorbing the serene majesty of the overlook. Beyond the grassy, sparsely treed hilltop lay the river, flowing gently 100 feet below. Encircling the river on both sides was a soft earthen bank, followed by towering rows of trees, swaying subtly in the cool, crisp breeze. Surrounding the river on all sides was mostly unexplored wilderness, with only one or two discernible trails from my vantage point, and to the west on my left was the waterfall, perhaps 15 feet shorter than the summit itself. At the top of the waterfall was more forest. If I were to ascend the tree I typically sat beneath, I could discern the water tower of Lakeside, the adjacent town to the north. But today I leaned against the tree, extracting my journal. I flipped through the pages, eventually reaching a blank one. I withdrew a black pen from my jacket pocket, testing it against the paper. I closed my eyes and allowed my spirit to speak. Cole. Why Cole? I don't comprehend, Alana. All you do is talk about Cole. What happened to us hanging out when we were little? Pushing each other on the swings after school? Biking around town on Saturdays and going fishing after church? It gnawed at me. I had grown accustomed to her disregard, but occasionally, it still stung. Cole? What a cad. He doesn't care about you or Abigail or anyone. And you know it too. Why do you tolerate it, Alana? I sighed and opened my journal. I stared at the blank page for a while, pressing the tip of my pen to the corner of my lips, awaiting a divine burst of inspiration. But it never came. That's all right. Sometimes it doesn't. I settled for simply gazing at the beauty of the summit once more. And that's when something utterly unpredictable transpired. For the first time, despite my regular visits to this spot since my 17th birthday, I detected the sound of someone traversing through the trees. My heart ceased its beat, and I sprang up, startled by the noise. And then, my mind was seized with even greater astonishment. A young woman emerged from the thicket with long, flowing golden hair shimmering in the sunlight and luminous turquoise eyes, an enchanting blend of sky blue and aquamarine. Her face was lightly dusted with faint freckles, and she possessed sharp, almost fox-like features. She was clad in a red and white flannel shirt, unbuttoned across her chest, and beneath it she wore a white tank top. She also had on fitted jeans. She gasped, startled by my presence. Hi. I waved ineloquently. Hello? She waved back, beginning to smile. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you. No, you're fine, I smiled back. Wow, I've never seen anyone else out here before. Yeah, me neither, she giggled. I was perplexed by that, because I came here so often, and if she came here with any relative frequency, I would have surely seen her by now. But I knew that pointing that out would only make me sound creepy. So, what brings you out here? Oh, and, I'm Sam. Leona, she smiled warmly. And honestly, I just come out here to sing and play my guitar since I know it's a private place and no one is listening. I hadn't even noticed the guitar case in her hand. Oh, cool. Sorry if I'm ruining your privacy? I scratched the back of my head, but she replied, No, you're not. Not at all. I mean, I'm still just in shock to see someone out here. Sorry if this is weird, but how often do you come here? Because I come here more often than I'd like to admit, and I've never seen you, I chuckled. I mean, I don't come here all that often, she confessed. Maybe once or twice a month. But still, I'm pretty sure I'm the only one who ain't too scared to visit this place. No, I don't believe in ghosts, I shrugged. Neither do I, she laughed dryly. What shocked me more than seeing her here was that I had never seen her before. Surely she couldn't be from Echo Valley unless she was homeschooled and locked in her parents' basement. Are you from Echo Valley? I inquired. I've never seen you around. No, I'm from Lakeside. Wow, that's quite a drive. Yeah, that's why I don't come out here more often, but it's worth the trip. It's too bad this place has such a bad reputation. It's so beautiful. Yes. Agreed, I nodded. Well, you said you come here often, but you haven't told me why, she asked with a curious smile. So, what's your reason for coming to Whispering Summit? I felt shy admitting it. I mean, I just come here to write. Write? Write what? All sorts of things. Stories, prose, poetry, mostly poetry. Oh, that's yes. Neat, she beamed, and my heart fluttered at the sight. Let me hear one. Only if you play me a song first. Oh, you're proposing a trade? She eyed me playfully. Yes, I accept your terms. Though I'm not that good, she confessed with a blush, and again my heart soared. Oh, I doubt that, I replied. Though I'm just kidding. You don't actually have to. No, it's fine, she reassured, walking to a rock and sitting upon it, before opening her case and retrieving a dark brown acoustic guitar. She took a deep breath, and then her fingers danced across the strings. I don't mean to sound cliché, but when she began to sing, it utterly mesmerized me. I mean, it wasn't like anything I had ever felt. I just stared into space, soaking it all in, feeling the sun on my skin, the gentle babble of the waterfall and river in the background. I was completely lost in the moment. Her voice was high and light, yet full of feminine strength. In some parts of the song, her voice would become soft and clear, and in others, she sang powerfully and resonantly. Her emotion flowed through the music, giving me goosebumps. It was an incredible performance to put on for a complete stranger. But her initial bold choice of impressiveness fully paid off. I was utterly captivated and couldn't hide it from my face. When she finished singing, she softly concluded the song with a little more guitar playing. Then she smiled at me nervously. All I could feel at that moment was infatuation. Oh no, she giggled. Why the bewildered look? Was it that bad? No, I shook my head adamantly, still trying to process what I had just heard. Not at all! It was just... wow! It was absolutely phenomenal, like I was in a trance. Oh, she demurred, becoming visibly embarrassed. It wasn't that good. What do you mean? I laughed. It was incredible, Leona. I mean, I feel like I'm on drugs or something. What was that song called? I Know P by Fiona Apple. It was written for piano, but I think it sounds okay on guitar. Okay? I was giggling. Leona, that was truly the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. All right, she blushed. Your turn. Let me hear a poem, Sam. Well, You see, that's where you're lucky. With singing, you just do it, and if it's good, anyone can tell. It can be about anything, really. But if it sounds good, it's something you can share. With writing or... I don't know, it's just different. Good poems are personal. And as such, it's weird to share that, you know? Oh, I see. Breaking your promise. She clucked her tongue. Well, don't worry about it. No, well... I scratched my head awkwardly. I did say I'd show you a poem I wrote. So, would you like to hear this silly poem I wrote about a sock in the 11th grade? I was trying to stay awake in class and just jotted it down. I chuckled. Wow, I sing for you and you read me a poem about a sock, she teased. No, I laughed, embarrassed. I'm kidding, she grinned. Yes, let me hear it, Sam. All right. This one's quite aptly titled The Sock. Silently sitting on a shelf, transparent, frayed, grant me a subtle help, warm feet in the morning. Silly, right? Oh my gosh, she laughed. Wow, I mean, it sounds good. Solid rhythm, well-executed slant rhyme. Well, thanks, I grinned, not expecting her to be so insightful. And for the rest of the day, until the sun began to descend, we simply sat and conversed. She played her guitar and sang a little more, and once I was comfortable enough with her, I showed her a real poem or two. As it grew darker, we agreed it was time to depart. So, Leona, can I see you again? I asked. She seemed to ponder for a moment. The 5th of May, she winked at me. Be here. Sounds good, I smiled back, more excited than my expression let on. And with that, we parted ways. She said there was another parking spot on the other side of the summit, closer to Lakeside, and her car was there, so I didn't walk her to the parking lot. When I returned to my car, I slid into the driver's seat. It was dark, but the moon was high in the deep blue sky. The temperature had dropped to around 40 degrees, and I turned on the heat. As Leona's face reappeared in my mind, my heart pounded. Who was that? I was stunned. Where did she come from? I mean, wow, I can't believe that happened. I drove home listening to country radio, which I usually didn't do, but tonight I felt cheerful enough to. When I arrived home, it was a little past 8. My parents weren't home, which wasn't surprising. I went into the kitchen and heated up some chicken and rice. Then I sat at the table and pulled out my phone. I had a couple of texts from Alana. Did you see Cole's story? She keeps clinging to him. Did you do Dr. Peterson's homework yet? Sam. Alana, can you call? She had read the texts, and within 2 minutes, my phone rang. Hello, I greeted with an enthusiasm she hadn't heard much of these days. Oh, you're in a good mood, her smooth alto voice came through the phone. You're not going to believe this. You will never believe this, Alana. What? She sounded annoyed at my strained tone. I went up to Whispering Summit today, as usual, but for the first time in my life I met someone there. Was it a ghost? This is so thoughtful. Oh, it's really nothing. We spent the entire day together, talking, laughing, telling each other about our lives. I told her about Alana, about how we were inseparable from kindergarten until the 6th grade, and then how she became popular and started ditching me. I even told her about the fight we had a little over a week ago and how we hadn't spoken since. I told her about my parents, how they were hardly ever home, and how I spent my time either working at the harvest market with people twice my age or writing at Whispering Summit. She told me that Lakeside was much like Echo Valley, with a slightly larger population of 6,000, and a similar situation with only one high school in town. She told me she was quite popular, but she didn't really like any of her classmates. She said they were all fake, with materialistic priorities, and she had no one to really talk to, at least beyond a superficial level. She said the guys were always clinging to her, treating her like a trophy they were all vying to win, but none of them ever really took the time to just sit down and get to know her. She said her family situation was very similar to mine. She was also an only child, and her family was hardly ever home. But her father was the sheriff of Lakeside, and he could be really controlling, which added a lot of stress to her life. The more we talked, though, the more I realized how similar our lives were. She said she started playing guitar and singing when she was 10, and that's what she did when she was bored and home alone. At first, I wondered if she could truly relate to loneliness. Maybe she didn't spend much time with people, but unlike me, it was by choice. She was noticed, invited to parties, approached by classmates. She didn't have to spend a single weekend alone if she didn't want to. But the more she explained, the more I realized her situation was hardly fulfilling either. She was surrounded by people who didn't genuinely care about her, only wanted her for her looks, and no one bothered or cared to understand her. I started to truly empathize with her. That must have been isolating in its own way, too. We stayed there until evening. This time before she left, she did something that surprised me. "Well, Sam," she smiled at me. "That was fun. See you next time." "The 13th of May, I nodded. "Can't wait." She looked at me for a moment. Then she hugged me. Her soft arms wrapped around me and I inhaled her scent, feeling her chest press against mine. I was numb with butterflies. "Thanks for taking the time to get to know me, Sam," she whispered softly, her warm breath caressing my ear. "Of course, Leona," I whispered back, in awe. She pulled back. Then she gently kissed me on the cheek. She immediately looked embarrassed about it, giggling with flushed cheeks as I stared at her in bewildered speechlessness, probably looking like a complete idiot. Then she turned away, walking into the forest. "Next Sunday," she called back. "Next Sunday," I called back, my heart pounding. "Have a good evening, Sam," the elderly woman leaving, walking toward her car. "You too, ma'am," I called back, standing behind the register. It was Saturday, May 12th, a week since I had last seen Leona. I was on a closing shift at the harvest market and couldn't wait to clock out. The whole night, all I could think about was Leona. Tomorrow, I was determined to get her phone number. Then we could talk all the time. I stared at the clock. 8:52 p.m. Just 8 more minutes. And I could start the closing procedures. Then, to my surprise, I felt my phone vibrate in my pocket. I scanned the area for my manager, Luther. Determining he was not present, I pulled out my phone, wondering who on earth had messaged me. It was a Snapchat from Leona. Wow, I thought. That's weird. We hadn't spoken at all since the phone call. It had been about 3 weeks. Around 10 o'clock, I finally clocked out and walked into the cold night toward my red Accord in the star-filled parking lot. I climbed inside, turned on the heat, then tapped on the message, surprised by how nervous I was to do so. "Sam, I miss you." This shocked me. I couldn't believe she even realized I was gone. "Hi, Alana. I miss you too." I went to put the car in drive, but she had already replied. Surprised, I read the next text. "Can we hang out tomorrow? It's been too long." "Oh, sorry, Alana. I'm meeting Leona tomorrow. Maybe Monday?" "Oh, okay, sure." "Hey," I replied. "Want to call tonight?" The typing bubble appeared. I smiled, staring at my phone screen. "Are you all right?" she asked. "Are you all right?" I countered, a clear wink. "Sam, please. I'm sorry. I was really scared that you'd find someone you like talking to and then I'd have no one." Oh, Alana. You know I'm not the type to ditch a friend, I replied. You just need to stop driving me crazy. I'm sorry, Sam, she said. I swear to you I'll do better. Do you want me to help you? I asked, a sudden idea forming. Help me with what? With Cole. I think I can help you get him. Oh, yes, she replied. Please. Great. Meet at school on Monday. Sound good? Okay, Sam, I'm so glad we made up. Me too, Alana, I said. Me too. I hung up driving home. The entire way back, all I could think about was Leona. Perhaps it was the butterflies in my stomach. Perhaps it was the thought of seeing her tomorrow. Or perhaps it was the whole idea that I finally had a friend I could truly confide in. On Sunday, I arrived at Whispering Summit at 1 in the afternoon again. I walked into the clearing, and as usual, no one was there. I walked over to the tree I usually sat under and sat down, pulling out my journal. I tried to think of happy things. I thought about seeing Leona, about what a wonderful friend I had. But all I could think about was my conversation with Alana last night. I knew she didn't mean any harm. I knew she was just concerned. And I couldn't help but feel bad about what I had said to her. She was the only person I had, and I had kicked her out. I picked up my phone. I had no service and felt a little disappointed that I couldn't text her. I had thought about asking for her number last night, but I figured I would wait. After all, I had no reason to ask for her number if she couldn't trust me. I didn't want to ruin my first impression with her. I stared out into the clearing and then I sighed. Sam, don't be an idiot, I told myself. Leona knows you like her. She's going to show up. And sure enough, around 3 o'clock, she emerged from the tree line. Hi, Sam, she beamed. Have you been here long? No, it was a girl, a gorgeous girl. A girl? You met a girl at Whispering Summit. Yes, her name is Leona. I plugged in my headphones, then sat down, cutting a piece of chicken breast with my fork. Alana, she was the prettiest girl I have ever seen in my life. Wavy blonde hair, sparkling turquoise eyes, and she can sing too. Alana was silent for a moment. It's pretty weird that you met her there. Well, yeah, I mean, I've never met anyone there before. I just told you that, but that's not the point. I met her. Do you think she's doing something? I don't know any other reason she'd be out there. I rolled my eyes. No, Alana, she was out there to play her guitar alone, just like I go there to write alone. I go there all the time and I'm not doing something. But you said she was hot, right? Well, I guess so, yeah. So, I mean, not to be rude or anything, but it makes sense for you to be out there. But why would she be? If she's as hot as you say? What does that mean? Come on, you know what I mean, Sam. That it makes sense for a loser like me to sit out there alone, but not someone attractive. Okay, don't make it sound like that. Then how do you want it to sound? Listen, calm down, okay? She was excited. Sam, all I'm saying is, you're not exactly Mr. Popular. You told me word for word that you go there all the time because you have nothing better to do. Well, if she's around and hot, I'm sure she's driving all the guys crazy. She probably has a lot of other things to do. So why would she be at Whispering Summit, the place where lonely people go? It just doesn't make any sense. She was out there to play her guitar. She wanted a place to be alone, to practice. It's not complicated. I guess. I sat there for a while. Why couldn't she just be happy for me? Every time I talked to her, all she did was argue with me or make me sound stupid. I mean, what was the point of talking to her? I never felt satisfied or happy. I never felt like I was talking to a friend. After spending just one afternoon with Leona, I felt closer to her than I had in years with Alana. You know what, Alana? I think I have to go. Oh, come on, Sam, she replied. But I answered, every time I tell you any good news, it's as if you just try to cut it down and make it sound stupid. Well, it's too bad you can't be happy for your friend when I found someone I actually like talking to. She was silent for a second. You don't like talking to me? I paused. No, No, not really. All you talk about is Cole. I'm tired of it. I've told you already. Cole is a jerk who doesn't deserve the unconditional kindness you give him. But you never listen. You let him walk all over you, time and time again, and then come crying to me as if it's the first time it's happened. All you talk about is Cole this and Cole that. I don't care about Cole. I don't want to hear about Cole. If I wanted to know that much about Cole, I'd talk to him. You and I haven't had a real conversation since 6th grade. To my amazement, I thought I could hear her sniffle. Oh, well, if that's how you feel, then I guess I have to go too. Come on, Alana. Don't make it sound like it's my fault. Whatever, Sam. Glad you found someone you like talking to. She hung up. I sat there feeling a mixture of emotions. Maybe what I said was harsh. Perhaps there was a more delicate way I could have vented. But then, who was I, sitting there feeling guilty? Aside from being a little rude, I didn't do anything wrong. I had every right to feel the way I was feeling. If Alana cared about me, I certainly couldn't tell. She never supported me, never thanked me, never acknowledged our friendship. She treated me like her bedroom drywall, something she could vent to before walking away and turning out the lights. And I was tired of it. I had grown so used to it, I didn't even realize how bad of a friend she was. But talking to Leona made me realize it. I felt happier and more alive in those few hours than I had felt since I was 12. And sure enough, for the next few days I didn't speak to Alana at all. I saw her around school, and we didn't really acknowledge each other. And guess what? My life was no different. In fact, it even felt as if a burden had been lifted from my shoulders. I mean, don't misunderstand me. I missed her instinctively. But then I reminded myself that the Alana I was missing had been gone for years. The day I met Leona was April 26th, and I counted down the days until May 5th. As excited as I was, a part of me still felt that disappointment was inevitable, that I would sit there all day waiting for her, and she would never show up. What made it worse was that May 5th was a Saturday, so I didn't really know when she planned to show up. I spent my days either fantasizing about Leona at work or sitting at the summit and thinking about her. Finally, May 5th arrived. I won't lie, I woke up that morning in a cold sweat. As much as I wanted to believe she would show up somehow, deep down, I just knew she wouldn't. I tried to picture her walking into the clearing, seeing her beautiful eyes again, hearing her enchanting voice. But all I could envision was time ticking by, waiting in the hot seat for her to arrive, and eventually slinking back to my car at sundown, just as alone and disappointed as ever. I arrived at the summit around 1 in the afternoon. I brought a basket with a few sandwiches and fruits and 2 bottles of sweet tea. It was perhaps a bit much, but the initial impression she chose to make really stuck with me. I figured I would be bold too. I leaned against the tree, took out the pocket knife I never went anywhere without, sliced an apple and ate it leisurely. When I was done, I wrote some more in a story I was working on. Then around 3 o'clock, my writing was interrupted. Against all odds, I heard the sounds of someone making their way up the hill. My palms grew sweaty, and my heart raced. I could barely breathe, staring in the direction of the sound. She emerged from the tree line. I met her captivating turquoise eyes, her soft pink lips, smiling, her tan face. Today she was wearing a pink flannel shirt and again carried her guitar case. "Hi, Sam," she smiled. "Hi, Leona." I beamed. My entire body surged with excitement and relief. She came and sat next to me and I inhaled her perfume, exhaling a blissful sigh. "So, I brought us some lunch," I smiled, opening the picnic basket. "I've got sandwiches and fruits. There's ham and cheese, turkey with mayonnaise, and peanut butter and jelly, and then some apples and bananas." "Oh, Sam," she smiled at me. "You brought me lunch?" "Yeah." And I reached into the basket. "Here," I handed her a bottle of sweet tea. "Hope you like sweet tea."
"No, not long," I replied, my heart pounding. I just got here. Great. I didn't get here too late. I hope not. You're here just in time. So, Leona, you know what I was thinking? I thought we should go see a movie this Saturday. I've been wanting to see the Zodiac Killer. Oh, Sam, she replied. I can't do that this Saturday. Oh, well, okay. Another time then. That's fine. I couldn't hide the disappointment in my voice. No, I'm sorry. It's just, I have plans, but I love the idea. Maybe another day. Sure, that's fine, I said. Well, do you want to play a guitar for a bit? I'd love to hear you sing again. She took out her guitar. I'm sorry, she said. I don't have much to tell you about today. That's okay, I said. Just sing for me. And so she began to play and sing. I sat there watching her, and my worries faded away. She was all I needed. Then, she finished the song. Do you want me to play another one? She asked. Sure, I replied. And she began to play another song. This time it was even more enchanting than the last. She sang so softly and smoothly, and I felt like I was dreaming. I couldn't think of anything else but her. When she finished the song, I couldn't hold back any longer. I stood up. I know this might sound weird, but I feel like I'm falling in love with you. She looked at me, and her eyes widened. Sam, I'm sorry. No, I interrupted her. Listen to me. I've never felt this way before about anyone. I've met a lot of girls, but none of them could compare to you. You're special. She looked down, not saying a word. Do you want to go out with me? I asked. She looked up, and she smiled. No, she said. I'm sorry, Sam, I can't do that, but why? I'm sorry, I just can't, she replied. It's not you. I can't date you. I don't understand. I said, I'm sorry, Sam, she said. I really have to go. She stood up, and I stood there watching her. No, I said, you can't leave. You have to explain. She shook her head. I'm sorry, she said. And then she turned around, walking into the forest. I stood there for a while, staring at the spot where she had just been. I couldn't believe what had just happened. She had rejected me. I had never felt so heartbroken in my life. I walked back to my car. Driving home, I didn't turn on any music. I didn't want to hear anything. I just wanted to go home and hide in my room. When I arrived home, I saw my parents' car was there. I went inside and I heard them arguing. I went straight up to my room and closed the door. I sat on my bed and stared at the ceiling. I couldn't stop thinking about Leona. I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. I could unstop thinking about how foolish I had been to think that she would feel the same way about me. Then, I heard a knock on the door. It was my mom. What? I replied. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Can I come in? No. I heard my mom's footsteps leave. I lay there for a while, feeling like I was about to cry. I didn't believe in ghosts, but now I couldn't help but feel like I was being haunted. I was haunted by Leona. I was haunted by her smile. I was haunted by her voice. I was haunted by the way she made me feel. I picked up my phone and I saw a text from Alana. Are you okay? I smiled. I don't know, I replied. Oh, well, can I come over? Yes, I replied. Yes, please. I waited for her to arrive, and when she did, I opened the door. I hugged her. Alana, I said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything I said. It's okay, Sam, she said. I get it. You're upset. We sat on my bed, and I told her everything. I told her about Leona. I told her about how I felt. I told her about what had happened. She listened to me. She didn't interrupt me. She didn't judge me. She just listened. And then, when I was done, she hugged me. Sam, she said, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that happened to you. I don't understand. I said, why would she do that? I don't know, Sam, she said, but I'm here for you. We talked late into the night, and I felt a little better. Alana was a true friend. She was there for me when I needed her. The next day I woke up, and I felt a little better. I was still sad, but I knew I would be okay. I had Alana. I never went back to Whispering Summit again. I couldn't. It was just a reminder of what I had lost. But I found another place to write. I found a small coffee shop in Montpelier, and I went there every day to write. And I kept writing. I wrote about Leona. I wrote about love. I wrote about heartbreak. I wrote about life. And I knew that one day I would find love again. And one day I would be happy again. And so, my time at Whispering Summit came to an unexpected close. It remains a place etched into my memory, not just for its haunting legends, but for the profound shift it brought to my life. I may no longer seek its isolated solace, but the lessons learned and the bonds forged there continue to resonate. Sometimes, the answers we seek aren't found in the grand gestures or the supernatural, but in the quiet moments of shared vulnerability. My journey to Whispering Summit taught me about the importance of true friendship, the courage to speak my truth, and the unwavering hope that even after loss and heartbreak, new beginnings are always possible. The mystery of the summit may live on in local lore, but for me, it will always be the place where I began to truly understand myself, and where the echoes of a new chapter first began to sing. Thank you for listening.